So at this point in time, you should have a couple of things that are done and ready to go for your weaving. So you should have your loom. You should have it warped with your strings that are going up and down. And now we're going to focus on adding designs. Now the designs that you put in are completely up to you. I like to stay away from just very, very simple things such as stripes that go across the weaving. I like things that are a little more dimensional. This design that I created on my loom was based off of a Bauhaus style painting, so I thought it was very interesting and it was very geometric. And the color scheme that I picked was just like a whole bunch of different bright colors that I found. Whenever you are working on adding designs, it is important to have your template with you. For me personally, I do not tape my template onto the loom. I just use it to check, and I know with the lighting you don't really see my designs that are underneath here. But the template is a nice way of seeing where you need to go, where you need to weave, and where you need to stop. So whenever you're weaving on a loom, you want to have a good idea of where you need to start with a specific color and where you should end at. And with weaving, it is pretty easy once you follow like a couple basic steps. And the main thing that I like to go over is what's called stepping in and stepping out. So in order to get a design, something like this, like a triangle, a circle, hearts, really anything. I've had people weave skulls. I've had people weave portraits of famous artists. Anything like that is simple as long as you understand the stepping in and stepping out process. So just to kind of show you quickly how to do that, I do have a section right here, and I know it's difficult to see, but I have a section right here that I'm going to make this lime green color. Now remember to cut your string. Don't work straight off of this skein or off of a ball of yarn because you're going to be pulling that string through and pulling and pulling and pulling, and it'll take a lot more time and it'll make you very frustrated. And then whenever you're going to begin a piece in your weaving, a piece in your design, you want to make sure you know where you want to start and you know where you want to end. So I'm going to begin here on top of where this triangle piece is, and you're going to do a normal tabby weave. So you're over, under, over, under, over, under. And I'm going to weave. And whenever I get to the spot where I want to stop, which is going to be right at this point next to this kind of loose string, then I'm going to pull my string in, create that mound that we've talked about. Make sure you have a decent amount of string that could be kind of extra. You're not going to tie this on here. I'll teach you how to clean up the back later, so it's okay to have these extra strands. I create almost like a mound, and then you're going to use your beautiful, beautiful fork to press that down. And then you're going to start your next line and go over. Now my design, it kind of sweeps in at an angle, so I'll show you what you need to do, the stepping in and stepping out process. So I'm going to go ahead and do the second line of the weaving. Whenever your needle gets to a point where you can't kind of bob it through anymore, you're just going to need to pull. And then when you get to the end, that is when you pull the whole way through. But be careful as you're pulling, because if you pull too tight, this warp string here is actually going to push in, and you do not want that. So you want to make sure your strings stay as vertical as possible. I know that it looks like it's getting tugged in a little bit on the sides, but as you can see, my weaving's still pretty straight on the sides, and that's what you want. You want a more masculine form, not as much of a feminine form. So if you see that your weaving's starting to kind of curve in, you're pulling too hard, and you need to unweave and fix that right away. So I pulled it over, I've created my mound. I'm just going to press this down. And then begin your next line. So I'm paying attention to my template as I'm going, and I'm seeing that probably within the next line that I'm going to need to step in. So I'm just going to quickly do this next line or two, and show you guys how to step in. So now whenever I'm going to my next line, my template is going to be stepping in. So since I'm making it at that angle, I kind of go by the point of intersection. So if this line is coming in, you are creating this line, and your template design is starting to swoop in a little bit, you're going to step in one string. So instead of ending here where we were in the past, you're going to stop one string past that. Or you might have a design where you need to stop a couple strings in. That is totally fine. There's really no specific way to do that. It really all depends on what you are going for in your specific design. And like I said, you could create organic shapes or geometric shapes. This obviously is a more geometric type of design, but you can do circles. You can do more curvy shapes too. So here I am at these two things. Now whenever I go back across this way to continue my tabby weave, I'm just going to go under this string and over. And continue until I get all the way to the edge. And then push that down. So you can see, it's almost like building with Legos is the best way to describe it. It looks like a perfectly straight across line whenever you're done, but it actually is something that steps in. Kind of like a stepped pyramid is the best way to describe it. So what I'm going to do now is create a quick time-lapse video of me continuing the weaving process following my template, so you guys could get a pretty good idea of how it is, instead of me just showing you four lines, showing you how it looks as you're progressing on it. So I wanted to pause my time-lapse quickly to point out a couple things. One, I got a little bit smarter and I outlined this in Sharpie so you guys could see my template a little bit better. And two, I talked about following your design and stepping in and stepping out, which is really all you need to know to create any design. But another thing that helps to make your weaving, one, stay together, but two, also look way cleaner, is what's called interlocking. So to interlock something, you're just taking basically what you're weaving and you are interlocking it into the weaving that is beside it. So I'm going to try to zoom this in a little bit just to show you guys kind of details of this. So I went ahead and I wove this top part, but now it comes to the part where I have to interlock it. So basically all interlocking means is that you kind of wiggle in between two rows of weaving that were already there before, and you kind of put your needle right in between them, and then you continue weaving like normal. And here, that's where my template ends, so that's where my string is going to end. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that through carefully so you don't pull this in too far. I'm sure you've seen, whenever I was doing the time lapse, there was a handful of times where I pulled a little bit too hard and you see the your warp string kind of wiggle in a little bit. You just need to make sure you just press that down and kind of tug at it to make sure that you create, you know, your vertical line again. Then you're going to weave through, and then we get to the point where we interlock, so you're going to go in between the next two strands. So you're not going to go to the same one. I'm going to wiggle in between these two now. I'll pull that through quickly. Press it down, and then continue like normal. I've had students that have not interlocked their weavings in the past, and it is a possibility. This weaving, I could get away without interlocking it, but if you have long pieces of straight weaving, for instance, if you are weaving a checkerboard design where you have long, straight, almost linear pieces, whenever you go to take that off of the weaving, that part actually flaps up. So that's why I always tell people interlocking is better, because of those two reasons. It makes it look like a cleaner weaving, and it's a little bit stronger as well.